Thank you, President Mary Pat. I will be very brief so we can leave as much time as possible for our guests. We have with us this morning both the school board superintendent and the school board chair, which is having either one would be a great honor. Having both is a double honor. Dr. Greene has served as superintendent in Duval County just over 2 years, having come in July of 2018. She got her start in teaching 33 years ago at Mamie Agnes Jones Elementary out in Baldwin, which is where we deliver dictionaries every year. She also served as an assistant principal, a principal, in district leadership positions in curriculum and staff development, and then just prior to coming here as deputy superintendent and superintendent in Manatee County in Florida. And the other distinguished guest is Mr. Warren Jones. Mr. Jones just got reelected to his second term as the District 5 representative for the school board and is also serving as a school board chair. Many of you know him, including I think 3 members on the call today from the City Council, because he served there for 28 years, serving as the chair of numerous committees, and then as the chair of the entire City Council in 1991 and 1992. So it's with great pleasure I introduce to you these 2 distinguished guests, and they will take it away.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, good afternoon, Ed. Thank you so much for giving us an opportunity to speak to you. Anytime anyone wants me to talk about what we do for Duval County Public Schools, I am ready and willing because I'm so proud of our school district. I'm hopeful that I can share my screen. Is that a possibility? But if not, I could do it without sharing the screen.
Yes, ma'am. I'll give you the co-host capability if you give me 1 second.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
As you know, we have started school since August 20th. It definitely has been a unique start to the school year in the midst of a pandemic. And so while we're waiting for this sharing the screen, I'd like to just give you a brief update as to where we are 9 days into the school year. As the school board worked with the district throughout the summer, we put in a number of strategies that we felt would help slow the spread and in some instances possibly stop the spread of COVID-19. And the precautions that we took is that we purchased face masks for all students and employees. We worked hard to ensure that all schools had the necessary resources to have in place to ensure cleaning happened all day, that we implemented social distancing. Our transportation is very different than it was a year ago. Currently now, we work really hard to only have 1 student per seat. The seat behind the driver is always left vacant, and only we try to have only siblings be able to share a seat on the bus with students. The reason we have been able to do that this year is because of the hybrid model that we have in place at the secondary level. Currently today, high school students only come to brick and mortar 2 days a week. Our middle school students, 6th grade comes to school 4 days a week, and the 7th and 8th grade students come to school 3 days a week. The days that they're not in school, they are participating through Duval Homeroom, so that we can ensure that students are having access to high quality education each and every day.
You're all set. Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Oh, I can share my screen
Oh,
now?
yes, ma'am. Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
I'm trying to find my PowerPoint, but it doesn't, I see everything but that. There it is. as we opened up the school year, we gave our families several different options based on their comfort level as it relates to COVID-19. So the first option, which is what we would normally do, is our brick and mortar option. Currently today, about 65% of our families actually have chosen to come back to school in brick and mortar. The hybrid that I talked about for secondary, that had to be approved by the Department of Education, and it was approved up until September 14th. If that does not stay in effect starting September 14th, our secondary schools will go to 5 days a week. The families that did not have the comfort level of coming to brick and mortar can get their education through Duval homeroom. That is remote learning. The students are learning at home, and if teachers are teaching that full time, they are allowed to teach remotely. And then Duval virtual. We actually have a virtual school that has been in place for over 10 years. It's called DVIA. So DVIA were for families whose students may have underlying medical conditions, and they knew that they would not be attending in brick and mortar for the entire school year. So we have close to 2,000 families that chose Duval virtual. Duval homeroom, we have close to 30,000 students that have chosen that remote learning. We ask that the families commit for at least 9 weeks. So at the end of each 9 weeks, we will ask families, do you want to come back to brick and mortar? And at that time, they can make that option to move to brick and mortar. Again, we've put a number of things in place to ensure that our schools are safer, not only for our students, but for our employees. One of the other things that we did for all employees is, in addition to face masks, we also gave them face shields so that they could have both while teaching. For many of our teacher desks, we also covered those desks in plexiglass shields for their protection too. One of the things that it's been hard for especially our community is that we are very restrictive on visitors, at least for the first 9 weeks. There is a certain location that schools have determined this is as far as anyone can go into the school unless they are an employee of Duval County Public Schools. So, you know, I constantly get emails from parents and grandparents. They want to come eat lunch with their child, and we have to tell them no. The key is trying to limit the number of people who are not in that building 5 days a week. And so this is one of the strategies we've put in place. Last is the rapid response team. Through our partnership with the city, you may have heard that we did a matching grant, $750,000 from the district and $750,000 from the city, so that we could develop a rapid response team. This is a team of nurses that support schools if they have a COVID-19 case. Those nurses immediately go to that school. They start the process for contact tracing. For every single case, we engage in a lengthy contact tracing analysis to ensure that, one, the student or adult that may have COVID-19, their privacy is protected, but at the same time, we are able to notify those families that may have had prolonged contact with that person that they have to self-isolate. So when it is an adult, that adult, we trace all the individuals that adult has had prolonged contact. Those individuals have to self-isolate, as well as students. Today, we have been very fortunate that we have only had 3 adult cases or cases related to teachers. We're close to about 20 cases related to students. The vast majority of our cases are at the elementary. I think the research and the data was showing that it would be more with our older students, but to this point, we've not seen that. I think at the high school level, we've had 3 cases. Middle school, we've had 2, and then the remaining have all been at elementary. And one might say, well, maybe the hybrid has something to do with that. At this time, we can't determine what is contributing to fewer cases at the secondary and more cases at the elementary, but the elementary does attend school 5 days a week for those who are attending brick and mortar. But that's kind of how our school year has started. I tell everyone that we're going to be on a long journey this year. It will have its share of ups and downs and curves, but I believe we have an outstanding district, starting with our school board down to the classroom and everyone in between, that's up for the challenge, and we're here to ensure that our students can still receive a high quality education even in the midst of a pandemic. But we also have something else very important going on that we have to remain focused and vigilant in educating our community. It's about the referendum for school facilities and economic growth. I'm not 100% sure of my time limit, so I am going to move through these slides pretty quickly so that I can ensure that Chairman Jones has an opportunity to speak at the end. But even though we are moving forward with a referendum for school facilities, this kind of works in tandem with our main focus. We have 5 focus areas. Reducing the number of persistently low performing schools. When I arrived in Duval County, we had 35 schools that were on the persistently low performing list. In 1 year, we reduced that down to 21 schools. We felt last year we would have reduced it again down to single digits, but we didn't have state testing. So this year we're looking forward to working with our schools and continuing to reduce the number of schools that are on persistently low performing. Improving literacy. We all know literacy is the gateway skill to everything else that we are doing. All academic achievement in the end ties back to good literacy skills. Increasing instructional rigor. We have been training our teachers, working with our principals in identifying that rigor that needs to happen in the classroom 5 days a week. And I'm proud to say that on my journey, starting these 9 school days, our teachers are already delving into the academics for students. And they're doing a great job of marrying that with social emotional instruction, making sure our students' well-being is taken care of, and at the same time delivering academics to our students. Recruit and retain high-quality employees. For the first 3 to happen, it starts in the classroom. Who's standing in front of the students? That person has to be a high-quality educator, and to ensure that we can keep them, we have to retain them, especially in those schools that are persistently low performing. And then last, improving school facilities. I will say that the schools that are the persistently low performing schools, unfortunately, are some of our oldest schools in the district. And you're going to hear about how we have the oldest schools in the state of Florida. So if we have the oldest schools in the state of Florida and the lowest performing schools happen to be some of the oldest in the district, there is automatically a connection between the school facility and academics happening inside of that facility. Just as a reminder, the referendum will be decided on November 3rd by the voters. As I stated, we have the oldest schools in the state of Florida. The average year age of our facilities is 44 years. As you can see, amongst the 7 largest school districts in the state, the next oldest is Miami-Dade at 33 years. this referendum will give us an opportunity to reduce the age of our schools, and in many cases, allow us to make improvements so that our students can have access to 21st century learning. But one might say, how did we get here? How did we get to a point that our schools are the oldest in the state? Well, it kind of happened in 2008 when the state when we were going through a major recession as a nation. The state of Florida, to support lowering the taxes in Florida, they cut the millage rate, which was designed specifically for capital. In 2007, the millage rate was 2 point mills for capital. In 2008, they cut it back to 1.75. And then 2 years later, it was cut again down to 1.5. So since 2008, the district has lost a little over $300 million in funding. And guess how much funding in deferred maintenance is needed? A little over 300 million. I think I said 300,000, so forgive me, $300 million. So the funding is sort of matching the deferred maintenance. And when you have deferred maintenance, this is the kinds of things that are happening at schools. This picture is showing a location, I believe this is Kirby Smith. These windows have been replaced, but replacing the windows in a building that's well over a century is not going to improve the energy efficiency in that building. You have to make major renovations to that building, but these are the things that we are facing. Old technology. I don't even remember televisions that small since I was a child, but we still have a number of schools that is what is used in the classroom. The last major rain that we had, you can see the asphalt breaking away just from normal thunderstorms, the flooding that impacts our schools. Portables, another thing that through this referendum, we hope to remove all portables on campus. Our portables are made out of material that's mostly wood, and it's very challenging to continue to repair portables when that should not be our mainstay of a classroom. You really want brick and mortar. You don't want these type of facilities. One, they don't hold up well in the weather that the state of Florida experiences quite frequently. And two, again, our students need to be in 21st century learning classrooms. So how can we continue to struggle with our facilities? We will fall further behind. We struggle to compete. I'm not going to go through all the districts in this slide, but the districts that are listed either have impact fees, a sales surtax, and you see that they have additional funding to offset the lack of funding we're getting from the Department of Education. But just go to the district at the bottom, Duval County. We do not have impact fees. We do not have a sales surtax. We are not receiving any dollars to help close that gap. And again, our schools are the oldest in the state. But this didn't just happen to Duval. All districts, all 67 districts are having this same funding gap. But as you can see, many districts made the decision to fill the gap with local revenue. All the districts that are listed, they either have a sales surtax or they are collecting impact fees to support that funding gap. Why is it needed? The repairs, the renovations, the safety, the modern tools. The one thing that I am very proud about is that Duval County has the oldest schools. We have a lot of issues with our facilities. However, Duval County academically is the third highest improving school district in the state of Florida. So we're making it happen even though we are wrestling with old facilities. but we can't continue this. As you see the first bullet, in the next 5 years, if we do not close that funding gap, we will have over $1 billion of backlog maintenance in the next 5 years. Some of the things that we're doing to offset that backlog is consolidate small undercapacity schools to increase the resources and cut overhead. This past school year, I brought to the board to consolidate 3 groups of schools. The first group was John Love and Long Branch Elementary, to consolidate that into one school. The second is the brand new Northwestern Legends Elementary School, formerly Northwestern Middle, to consolidate Carter G. Woodson into that school. And the last is to consolidate Brentwood Elementary into North Shore Elementary. Again, we're not just coming to the community about pouring money into old schools. We are taking the steps to consolidate those undercapacity schools that are old into newer facilities. 3, safety and security upgrades for every traditional Duval school. Our goal is to have those safety and security upgrades done within the first 3 years if the referendum is approved by the voters, so that we can continue to ensure our families that their schools are safe. We are building new schools where needed and aim to remove all portables. You will see that our master facilities plan budget is about $1.9 billion. I will tell you that that is a very conservative plan. We only built new schools where we could, 1, consolidate underutilized schools and build a brand new school, or 2, there was evidence that massive growth was projected for that area, and therefore that area needed a new school. And then last but not least, provide all students with today's tools for tomorrow's careers. The board just approved us to move forward with a 1-to-1 initiative for laptop technology for our secondary students. And this pandemic has definitely shown that we have a technology gap. We have thousands of students that do not have access to technology. To ensure that we could start Duval Homeroom last spring, we delivered over 40,000 laptops to families and over 6,000 hotspots up to today. So we know that our students need technology, and now with the referendum, if it is approved, we'll have an opportunity to implement that in our schools. Do want to share legislation this past year passed that any district that moves with a half-cent sales tax must share those proceeds with charter schools. So charter schools will receive their funding per student allocation. Why is it needed? It's also needed for us to have a community-wide economic stimulus. We are going to be able to put thousands of people to work. It's going to promote new businesses to the city, workforce ready for tomorrow's jobs, stimulate economic growth. It's going to improve the property values in desirable neighborhoods. We're going to increase teacher satisfaction and retention. Again, that is one of our main focuses, is keeping our teachers. I share the story all the time. When I first came to Duval County, they did a unique hiring. It was centralized. I came to this building and was hired. And then I made the mistake of saying, oh, I'll teach anywhere. And they sent me to Mamie Agnes Jones at Baldwin. The first day I showed up, I saw the school. If I had seen that school prior to interviewing, I probably would not have chosen to teach at Mamie Agnes Jones Elementary, though I loved the school, but the facility was deplorable. That facility no longer exists. They closed that school and moved all of the students from Mamie Agnes Jones to a newer facility. Those things matter to teachers that we are trying to, 1, hire, recruit them here, and then 2, keep them here. The last thing is hurricane shelters. Currently, we have no hurricane shelters on the north side of our community. The only location for a hurricane shelter is the Legend Center. And the Legend Center capacity is 250 people. So if we are ever hit with a hurricane that needed more shelters, by building new schools, some of those new schools will be on the north side. Those schools will be eligible to be open as shelters for our community. The cost, it add a dime to a $20 purchase. The average family will spend about $6 a month for this half-cent sales tax, and 20% of the proceeds will come from people who are visiting Jacksonville, visiting Duval County. So this is an opportunity for everyone to play a role in supporting our students and our community. Again, why does this matter? It matters because it impacts our #1 mission, teaching and learning. There is research that has found that school facilities have a profound impact on teacher and student outcomes. Again, I was at Kirby Smith. Kirby Smith is over 100 years old. Kirby Smith continues to be one of our highest performing middle schools. It is ranked an A. It's been ranked an A school for many years. But Kirby Smith also could be a premier STEM technology magnet. But we are held back by the age of that facility. So that is just one example of many that I could share how the facility has the ability to impact student achievement. Master's Facilities Plan. I encourage you to go to our website, ourduvalschools.org. I will leave this PowerPoint with you all so that if you want further information, you may have access to this information. That plan was built by an engineering firm that came and inspected every single school. They gave a detailed analysis of financial enrollment trends. They did an analysis of the distribution of funds and the schedule of when schools needed to either have major repairs or we completely needed to replace the school. Part of this master's facilities plan, if the referendum passes, the board has initiated a resolution to have a citizens oversight committee that will review all the expenses. So basically that oversight committee will have a map of what we will do for the next 15 years, and they will hold us accountable to keeping to the directions of that map. They will be able to review all the expenses from the half penny and are we utilizing those funds correctly. The plan over 15 years, as I said, is budgeted for $1.91 billion. Sharing with the charter schools will receive a little over $324 million. This is over a 15-year period. So we have an opportunity to re-image Duval County Public Schools. And I know that my PowerPoint says re-image. I don't believe it's re-image. I believe it's enhance the image of Duval County Public Schools because we're already doing great things. We're only 4 points from being ranked an A-rated school district. So we're right there for the academic success. This year, we will post a 5.8% unassigned fund balance. So we are already moving with that financial success to ensure that our district can go through a period such as this, as COVID-19. We're not completely sure what will be the impact to our state funding, but we built up a fund balance that should help us weather this storm. And community success. The new school, Northwestern Legends Elementary School, that community is beaming with pride. Even though it's an older school, the renovations, repainting it, the things that we have added into that school really made that community feel like the school district cares about them. And so if they feel that way with a renovated school, imagine what they will feel for a brand new school. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Chairman Jones that he can talk through the very last slide as how can you help and share additional information. I'm sorry, I talk a lot.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Greene. Good evening, everyone. Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here and to join you. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
You're on. We can. Yes. Thank you. Thank you for being with us.
Okay. Thank you. Dr. Greene has made the case very eloquently for why we need the half penny for schools. Those of you who grew up here in Jacksonville know the history of the long neglected school system that we have to engage kids in today. We want to improve that system so that kids will have more pride, the academics will improve, we will create jobs, economic development will increase. Had we approved this as we had planned to do last year, we'd be under construction right now. We would be creating more jobs, but unfortunately we didn't get on the ballot for 2019, so it will be on the ballot November 3rd. We need your support. We need you to advocate for us, let parents and friends and neighbors know why we need it. If you have any questions, we'll be glad to try to answer those questions. But we ask that if you would support the initiative, you can go to Duval Schools, Duval Citizens for Better Schools website, and you can contribute. You can pick up a yard sign this Saturday at the Firefighters Union Hall on Stockton Street from anywhere from 9 to 12. We have 5,000 yard signs for those who want to put a yard sign to support the half penny for schools. It's important that we do this. I grew up here. I've seen the neglect. Many of you who grew up here have seen the neglect that we've experienced in our public school system. We know we can do better. We realize that around us, St. Johns County has half penny and impact fees to improve their schools. Clay County has impact fees to improve their schools. Nassau County has. We're one of the few counties in the entire state that does not have a revenue stream to improve our existing schools. Impact fees, well, you say, why don't we pass impact fees? But those fees can only be used to improve, build new schools or expand schools in growth areas. Half penny sales referendum will improve all our schools, and we desperately need that support. And any direction and support you can provide us financially, advocating for it, or just putting a sign in your yard would be much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you very much to both of you for joining us today. I saw a number of questions popping up. We have about 5 minutes left on the call if you're able to take a few questions.
Mary Pat?
Yes.
Yes.
This is Ed. I'd like to make just one real brief comment.
Thank you, Ed.
Back to when John Fryer was superintendent and when I was superintendent from 2007 to 2013, we had this same list identified. I was there when they took the amount of money down from 2 mills to 1.75 to 1.5. When it was 2 mills, we weren't able to keep up with just maintaining our old schools. That's air conditioning, plumbing, electrical, etc. And so it's been drastically underfunded for years, and especially since 2009 and 2010. And this is desperately needed.
Amen.
Thank you, Ed. Patty, would you be able to lead us through the questions that came in?
Sure, of course.
Thank you.
The first question is, will old schools, and I'm sorry, I don't know the name of the person issuing the question, they're just in by an identification group of letters. Will old schools that are controversial like Robert E. Lee going to be replaced without having to go through the heartache of past graduates?
Uh,
I'm gonna let you take it, Chairman Jones.
uh, the all schools will be improved. The number one concern that we have is safety. After Parkland happened 2 years ago, we want to make sure that our schools are hardened, that they're safe, and a number of schools will be renovated and or replaced. So that has nothing to do, no correlation between the naming of the school and the work that will be done. That process was started several years ago with the Jacobs engineering study that identified the needs of each individual facility. And we plan to, the plan that we've already approved addresses the needs of the school based on that engineering report.
The next question is from Gigi Carroll. She's a former teacher. Teacher retention questions. Starting salaries have been increased. Now new teachers are earning the same as teachers who have been performing well for years. What is the retention plan for experienced teachers?
The question is related to the governor's desire for new teachers to start out at 47.5. This year, we received a categorical funding for increasing beginning teacher raises. I'd first like to say the funding we receive will not get teachers to 47.5. We are in the process of negotiating with our union, DTU. So through those negotiations, we'll determine what can we do for our new teachers as well as our veteran teachers moving forward. And I know those conversations are going to be quite poignant.
She has an additional follow-up question. What is the plan for student mental health, particularly at the high school level?
We have a 3-phase plan in place for mental health, whether it's students or employees. Phase 1 is, as a matter of fact, today we're going through Mental Health Wednesdays. That is a curriculum that we have in our schools that support all students K through 12 on mental health issues. We share with especially our high school students many of the things that they were facing, how they can connect with resources, individuals who can help them. That is our basic level. Our second level, students that we have more concern about, issues that students could be facing, especially high school students, we have small group counseling. Small group counseling are for students that have similar issues, such as grief counseling, but we also have other type of small group counseling. And then our most intense phase is one-on-one. Through our partnership with United Way, we have school therapists that work in all of our schools, and those students can have one-on-one support or therapy if that's what is needed. Our full service schools, those individuals are housed there so that every high school knows what days their therapist is on campus, and they work through a very comprehensive plan to, one, protect the student's privacy. And so it is kind of intense, and that's our most hands-on care for our high school mental health.
Thank you. We have another question. Where and when can you pick up yard signs?
You can pick the yard signs up this Saturday, September the 5th, at 625 Stockton Street, the Firefighter Union Hall, the tower there at Stockton and I-10, anytime between 9 a.m. and 12 noon on Saturday, and they're free.
Thank you. I have one
Thank
last
you.
question that we have time for. What's the status of vocational education at the high school level?
Was the question, what's the status of vocational education?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay. Well, actually, we don't call it vocational education. It's career and technical education, CTE. It's alive and well. We just had a meeting with Jax USA. We try to align our CTE academies to what are the needs of the city of Jacksonville or Duval County. And we've been working through that process. Our partnership has initiated numerous academies at all of our high schools. The latest one that we just opened up, which would be the Advanced Manufacturing Academy at Sandalwood. Students are earning college credit because they're dual enrolled towards an engineering degree related to advanced manufacturing. Or I could talk about our construction academy that we just started. I want to say Rains High School, but it could be Jean Ribaud High School. It's one of the two that we just started, along with Westside High School. Again, trying to connect with our local chamber and Jax USA, which they work collaboratively to figure out what are the best needs for our community. And then we try to put those academies in our high schools. And just one more academy, the JEA Academy that started at Atlantic Coast High School. Again, we are developing these academies to give these corporations their future employees. The JEA Academy is focused on power, utility, and water experts. The students, they should be in 10th grade. So once they hit 11th grade, they will start dual enrollment with at the college to start earning those credits that could lead to being an engineer at JEA. So we are very excited about what we're doing at our high schools related to what used to be called vocational education, now called career technical education.
Thank you, Dr. Greene, and thank you both for being with us today. I know we were all looking forward to hearing from you, and especially amazed with the challenges that you're facing in getting our kids back to school. We appreciate that. And if you do have time, I'm sure there's a few more questions that we weren't able to get to. If you have time after the meeting is dismissed, if you can stay on, that would be wonderful. Eric Sherman had a quick pop up, I believe.